Progress Racing presents Show Us Your Tips, weekend preview time. Daggy and Beaver with you to look towards Rosehill and a return to racing at Moonee Valley. Beaver, how are you travelling through the week?
Mate, travelling well. No great shakes, nothing to report in, mate. Just keep pressing on.
Sounds about right. I guess we'll get straight into some racing. Hey, we're at Rosehill, where it is currently a heavy 9. Good day today. I think any drizzle that was going to come through was coming through last night, so it's probably still going to be heavy. I don't think it's getting too much better than heavy. Everything's a bit wet at the moment, Grant. So,
Yes.
rail in the 4 metre mark from the winning post to the 1500. True the remainder. Let's see how well you can make up ground before we go looking for back markers, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's right.
We'll kick off with the highway. Have you got anything here to start the day over the 1200 metres?
It was an interesting race, this one. I think there's some fairly decent highway horses in this, sort of the top 5 or 6 in the market have all performed pretty well recently. I just settled on So Country. It's won its last 2, it's third up here, and I just think the draw of the top 4, it's got the 6 barrier, and all the others are drawn right off the track in a 1200 metre race, which means they're probably going to have to do a bit of work early or drop back in the field, and I'm not sure how much ground you can make up from there. So I thought, just based on 7 starts, been in the placing all of them, and won well at Rosehill last start, I thought it might be the hardest to beat in an open affair with the right run.
Beautiful. We'll get to the second, which is the 2-year-old 1100 metre race. This is the race of the day, isn't it? This is a cracker.
This is a cracker and a pretty open market as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's longer the field this morning, about 650 the field this morning. I can make cases for 4 or 5 horses. We're going to obviously know more after the race. At the moment, at the current prices, I'm happy to have something on Sweet Ride, who came through some of the early slipper lead-ups. Last trial's fantastic, but has trialled up pretty well for this. And I think Snick Cat's still a big price. Just noticed it's lost a jockey here. If it runs around the 20 to 1, again, has formed through Cool and Gada, Rushing Conquest and Sajardin, who, and we talked about it coming back a couple of weeks back, being saved here. I imagine it probably doesn't want to start on a heavy, but at the 20s, happy to sort of spec around there as well. But there's horses like Salicil, who had a nice debut down in Melbourne, and Voldemort. Even Athletica wasn't too bad first up. A great race. Main place for me, like I said, probably the 1 and the 7 at the moment. Beaver, what have you made of this?
Yeah, I was a bit similar to you. I kind of started at the top of the market and went, yeah, geez, that looks a good chance. And oh, that's a good chance. Oh, that's a good chance. I just kept working through them going, yeah, you've got some interesting form lines these, and they look to be going okay. So I did find it quite a tricky race and could have made cases for a few, but I did the same as you. I landed on Sweet Ride just off the back of its trial. I thought it was an outstanding trial and looked to be packed with plenty of potential when last in work, and had some nice form back then. So I've gone for it and thought that the 10 gate wasn't too bad. But as I said, Voldemort looks to have some ability, just drawn wide. So that concerned me a bit, same as Hell I Am. But you're right, Salicil. So it was impressive enough first up and would have improved a lot from that. So really open race, Sweet Road on top, but you could easily save on sort of have a 60, 65, 20, 15 bet and have a good win on the race or some savers.
Yeah. Any thought on these first up horses, given how wet it's been, getting them ready, or is every horse just in the same? Everyone's just in the same boat without track work, and who knows?
Well, I think they're all a little bit in the same boat.
It's only been raining for 6 months.
I think a lot of these trainers would have got the amount of work into these horses that they would have wanted before their first start anyway. So even with some of those limits, they would have still would have been a similar prep. They might have only got the 1 trial in except 2, but for those young horses, I don't think that's a huge big deal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think we're well on the way to the spring 3-year-old stuff, I guess. The Midway is race 3 over the 1300 metres, benchmark 72 as usual. I think Barticelli's ready now. It's now third up. Gets Nash going on after the last couple. Just missed coming through the last Midway a couple of weeks back. And I think it's the starting point here. And I was giving out of the same race, Air to Air, a chance. You missed the start, 2 or 3 lengths. Ran on well, drawn for down the outside. So I guess it'll be back last. So hopefully we can see him making ground by then. But if we can, I think the double figure price around it is a decent one as well. There were 2 I was starting with here, Beaver. Yourself?
Yeah, not a race I want to get too tied up in. Pretty open market, so plenty of value there, but super hard to get a line on some of these form that's all over the shop. I said it on Pandora Blue, sort of a bit up and down in its form, but I tipped it 2 starts back when it won, and it was a nice win at Randwick and at nice odds, so I thought that was quite good. And then it went up to Grafton in the Ramornie and only finished 3 lengths off Rangers, which would win this race. So I thought that was okay form line. If it can get enough, if it can get across and get a little bit of cover, could finish at each way odds.
Race 4 is the 1800 metre benchmark 78. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, another really open field here. I think you won't need to back many winners to come out on top at Rosehill on the weekend. Again, tricky form lines, a little bit all over the shop here, so you'll have to watch the market. A few horses coming back a bit in distance, which worried me a little bit. I come up with notions and settled on it. I thought it'd be hard to beat last start. It ran a really nice race, just nutted on the line by Ice Crusher, who just had to sit on it and got to the better part of the track at Randwick. Hoping it can get in a good posse here and Collett can produce it at the right time. But again, plenty of chances. 6 or 7 can win this. Even a horse at 15's Mon Felicity, which we had a bit of a liking for last week, can run well.
Yeah, I ended up, I know it's 24 back to 18, but I have stuck with Idrisil, who won well, looked to swim through the heavy at Rosehill a few weeks back. It's missed the run last week, so I'm assuming that's why it's just come back in distance. And I think fits in pretty well in this race with a lot of the midway lead up here. And I was giving a chance to Lovely Esteem, who's now third up and gets J-Mac. Has been working through pretty well here, and Waller tends to be a pattern trainer. We'll aim for this 3rd or 4th up to be the way to go. So I'm going Idrisil from Lovely Esteem in race 4.
Yeah, the problem with Idrisil for me was it just didn't strike me as a horse that had a natural turn of foot.
Yeah.
It seemed to, in winning that 2400, just it wound into its work and just worked them down. And that's, coming off the back of that to 1800. I'm not sure it'll have the brilliance. I could be wrong. Some of these just might get the pip here, but a couple of these haven't been out to 1800 and might be more mile horses. So we'll see.
Yeah, when I did the form, I envisioned just being a complete bog. So I thought it might be a slog by the time they get to the post, but it may be slightly. I think it might be better than that now. So a little bit colder than I was maybe Wednesday night. We'll find out. Race, but good call on the leaders too. Anyway, race 5, 1100 metre benchmark 72. Shades of Rose was slaughtered last time. There's no nice way to say it. Comes here. This is barely a midway race, and it gets J-Mac from Rachel King. Pretty keen. It's going to bounce forward. There'll be no stuffing around. He'll either take up a nice spot or just take the lead up and not sit 3 or 4 wide on pace, and put this field to bed. I'm pretty sure. What have you thought?
Yes, same as you. Absolutely slaughtered last start. Last start was a disgrace. Just don't know, if I was an owner, putting some of those jockeys on board that just slaughter horses and consistently do it has me beat. But hey, I don't own some of these horses. It was just given, it did well to finish where it did, as far as I'm concerned. My only concern is that how much did that run take out of it, and how did it pull up? It was only early in the prep, so hopefully okay. And this isn't a tough field, so yeah, clearly on top for me. Only, if I would say it's a great price on the back of that run. And my only concern is that it wasn't murdered last start. And yeah, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. Even the ones you want to find away from it, the plagiarise has been terrible. Last couple of runs, and what else are you going to talk about here? Race 6 is a benchmark 72 over 1,300 metres. We're pretty keen on one. I think this is a fairly thin race, and I think Kanazawa meets it off a great win. It was very nice, soft through the line. Comes here, and I'm just saying that form is a bit stronger than the Colino lead-up, even though that has been franked as well. So going to go with Kanazawa. The market's now right, because I was actually going to make a case for Manhood, who has come out. Is it going to Queensland? Do you know? Or?
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll win up there again. But
in the last,
yeah, it's sticking with Kanazawa here. Almost an each way price. And I think the only danger, if there is one, is Colino, and you can again probably back them both. Yeah, good betting race, I think. What have you made of this?
Yeah, I made the same. I was when I first clicked on the form and just started looking through this, I kind of went Kanazawa. Or I really was impressed with its win last start. Thought, yeah, gets the claim, and then I looked at the price and went, am I missing something? $4.50 mark I thought was very good odds. I would have had it probably more $3.50 mark.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're getting a point better now, and I think it'll start shorter. So I think at this point in time, really good bet, and quite surprised by the price. It was impressive last start, and I expect it's probably had some natural improvement.
Agree. First leg of the quaddie over the 1,800 metres, benchmark 78. Who are you going to start the quaddie off with?
Yeah, this is an interesting race again. I was just trying to sort of get a gauge on Wicklow and where it's at and how it fits into this race. There's quite a gap in the market from him to the next runner. I just thought I'd go for something like Aramis. When I worked through the form, Wicklow's pretty inconsistent. It's got the 60 kgs. I just thought Aramis presented a little bit more value. Gets a 9 kilo pull in the weights from the favourite at $8. It's won its last 2 starts. It's a progressive type horse. Sits off the pace. He'll finish off okay. And horses winning at tracks like Grafton and then coming here can always show up. So I just thought might be worth a play at $8.
I'm sticking with Wicklow. Just forget about Grafton. It was just never in that race. This comes back here this is a midway race. That Caesar Palace race was average.
Yep.
Glad I backed Caesar Palace, but it was average. And I think the only danger here, Aramis obviously progressive, so and down into weights on the bog track is a bit of a danger. And other than that, Fjordland's the only other danger. So I'm pretty keen. Wicklow runs well here, inside gate. I don't think it gets all the way back here. Waller Bowman will have that in the better spot than it has been. So I think it's a good bet. That said, still probably want around at least what it is now. Wouldn't want to firm too much more. Interesting. This is a special achievement Shelby 66 handicap. I don't remember it running over 1,800 metres, but let's move on to the feature on the card. Is the 1,500 metre listed race, the Winter Challenge. Who have you got here?
Yeah, nice little race again. Couple of interesting horses from overseas horses that are now sort of established here in Australia, Gold Trip and Durston. Particularly got a really close eye on Durston. It won a nice race at Caulfield last preparation, beating Mancayan, which is pretty good form. And then prior to that, ran pretty close up fourth behind Hosier, which is a good horse after coming from GB. So got a keen eye on it to see how it runs first up. So wouldn't leave it out. But I settled on Crosstalk. I think it's well weighted here. I think it's drawn well. And I think it can take up a really good position in running. And its last start was really impressive to the 1,400. I think the 1,500 suits. And I've got it on top in a good race.
I'm sticking with Jojo. Still should be unbeaten this prep. And there's probably an argument made. Should have even got the protest there. But going well. It does have the win over Crosstalk a couple back, and I think it can continue its streak. Crosstalk will be up on control and was impressive, and Waterhouse up in distance might be enough to turn the tables on Jojo. They're the two I'll look at predominantly for the race, and I'll throw the two imports into the quaddie when we get to that. But Going to stick with Jojo one more time here. Race 9, 1100 metre benchmark 94, where I am... Well, this is one you can just... I went through this race and was able to just pen all of the field bar 2. Easy single on top. Jay Collett loves a wet. And will run well here from Siege, who was unlucky last time and hopefully can get out early enough to have a crack at it. I think the market says that they're only 2, and I think there's still enough in the prices to play the race that way. I cannot make a case for a single other horse. What about yourself?
Yeah, I was the same. I couldn't find a case for anything else bar those 2. I flipped to Siege, but very nervously given the jockey. But I just think the 3 gate can sit behind the pace and hopefully pop out at the right time here and just get the better run. Has the couple of kilo pull in the weights, and I think, as you said, pretty unlucky last start and can improve here. So I don't think there's much between these 2. And I'm quite surprised they're both at $4. Obviously, as you say, you can probably do a 75-25 split, save on one and back the other, and come out okay.
Yep. We wrap up the day, 1300 metre benchmark 78. This gala event at the end of the card. Beaver, have you got anything you like?
It is a gala event, isn't it? Interesting. I settled on 2. I've put near 1 on top, or if that's how you say it.
Close enough. Naroni. Yeah.
I don't know which way, however they pronounce it, but I've got it on top around the $7 mark. Gets J-Mac on board here. Loves the heavy going. I know it's coming from Melbourne, which is hard to line up that form. But yeah, just loves the heavy going. Hence probably, this will suit here. I think the distance suits and it's drawn well enough. So I think it's hard to beat, but yeah, certainly can make major Torfy Glass. It was, perfect ride last start, sat off the pace and finished off nicely and was just too good for him. And it's going really well at the moment. I think it can also be in the finish. I'll just have, again, those 2 on top and probably back both of them.
Yeah, very tricky race. I'll be playing just a few small bets at a price, one being Silent Agenda, going pretty well. Should roll forward with the stablemate there, Titanium Power. They'll both run well here. Neroni, you've mentioned, I think fits in well, especially if the track does stay wet. And even Safika, if it does back up, I think third up, 5-day backup or 4-day backup can run well again, just slightly up in distance. But
I didn't see it backing up.
I imagine it doesn't, but tricky race. I'll get to the quality numbers in a moment. And
I'm not sure the Silent Agenda, mate. Distance 15 starts, no wins. Track 3 starts, no wins. I don't know where you plucked that one from, but hey,
that's right. We'll find out after Saturday. But no, might well be a Randwick horse. Anyway, let's get to the quaddie. I'm going to go with, in the first leg, number 1, Wicklow. Number 13, Fjordland. 14, Aramis. In the second leg, 1, Gold Trip. 10, Durston. 9, Jojo Was a Man. And 12, Cross Talk. 7, Easy Single. And 10, Siege in the second last. And we'll come home with 1, Titanium Power. 7, Silent Gender. 9, Neroni. 10, Sir Lemur. 13, Torfy Glass. 16, Safika, if it's here. 17, Papal Warrior. Have you got a best and value for Rosehill?
I do. Now you caught me because I wasn't thinking. My best is race 6, number 1, Kanazawa. I think it can run really well. And my value bet comes up in race 4, number 8, Notions.
I'm going to make my best Wicklow in that in the staying race there. I had my value Kanazawa when it was a 550. It has come in a little bit, so we might go with Sweet Ride as well as a bit of value as well. At Rosehill, check out progretracing.com.au for all the goings on there. If you enjoy the show, subscribe and leave a bit of feedback as well on YouTube. But we head down to the Valley, first time since March. We have the rail in the 3 metre mark, which is generally the fairest position, traditionally. But first use of the track for a while. Bit scared it might be inside there at the Valley, but we'll wait and see. A little bit of drizzle around tonight. Currently a soft track, but clear for the weekend, so should be all good there. We kick off, though, with the staying contest to start the day. How are you going to start the day down south, Beaver?
Yeah, I think the track, you're right here, plays a big part, and it makes it
It's almost
significantly tricky without knowing how that's going to play, as you said.
You almost have to give out a couple of sets of tips to cover
Yeah,
it
it's
off.
almost a bit like that tipping at this stage. If the rails is the fast lane and on pace, which can be the case at Mini Valley, you may have to adapt your thinking rather quickly throughout the race day. Look, I stuck with D'Aguilar on top in this race. I just think it's the best horse in the race. I wasn't happy with the way it was ridden last start. I thought they rode it sitting outside the lead was not the place to be in such a good race, and it just proved the case. They had the Sydney shot on it, but I thought it stuck on really well. Still to only finish a length from them. I thought that was a really impressive run. So it's got the top trainer going around at the moment in Paddy Payne. And so I've stuck with it on top. It's a small field, so I probably can position up here, one out, one back. But if it is the fast lane on the inside and leaders not usual glories, will be hard to run down. But the Daggy on top, yeah.
I agree. All things being equal, I think it's the best horse by a space, to be honest. But so it's on top. I like the way it can hopefully a slingshot in this race. And be very hard to beat. The concern I did have is, like you said, if not usual glories can just get a jiggy drag up front for a mile and ping off the bend there, it's going to be hard to catch. So, and the market does reflect that. But I think all things being equal, D'Aguilar should win this race more often than it doesn't. Race 2, we've got a pair of the 2-year-old races over the 9.55 next on the card. The boys' version comes up first. Well, I was going to just have a spec on Keysborough here, the Hawks horse. Jump outs have been good. A couple of nice ones earlier in the year, then a nice one again leading here. Inside gate, Craig Williams obviously going quite well at the moment, heading into spring. And happy to spec it, given the rest of the lead-up forms coming from Hawkesbury. So I was with it to start off here. What do you think, Beaver?
Same. I went for Keysborough as well. First starter, thought it trialled up okay, and I thought it got into this race quite nicely. It's 3 gate. I think it could be the one to watch, and around the $5, thought that presented a nice bet.
Race 3 is the 9.55 for the girls, 2-year-olds. What have you made of this one?
Yeah, really, really, really good race, this one. Trying to line up. I settled on the 2 blue colours, one from the Freedman stable and one from the Cummings stable. I thought they presented as the 2 hardest to beat. Was trying to sort of line those up. I settled on Bistro. Just thought it got a slightly better draw, but both have set up nicely here. Good top jocks on board. Just had it on top. Thought it might get the right run in transit. But I was a bit unsure where it might get to. It may get caught at three wide and prove a little bit tricky for it. But yeah, some good form coming through those horses. So Bistro for me.
Yeah, I was keen on Bistro too. Trial's coming back for this.
You're always keen on a Bistro, mate.
That is true. Never let that not be said. So that from in fact she's a more. So yeah, I have not much to add. Straight to the Bistro, but I do think the Moody horse jumped out quite well as well. So they were the 2 I was looking at here. And we'll just move on from that race then. On that note, 40 metre. Another one of these 3-year-old races is up next. I've decided to just go completely away from all the lead-up form we've seen in town for the last month, just because I'm sick of it all. And went looking for the fresh blood here. First of all, Matthew, who resumed with a nice win. Looked pretty impressive, resuming at a mile and ran away from the field there. And who was the other one I had going away from that? And obviously Shokomova, who again bolted in on debut, straight up to the 2,000 metres. And I'm just sick of every other horse in this race, so I'll play with those two. What have you made of this?
Yeah, interesting affair. This actually the top five horses are all trained by trainers that I'm keen to follow. So Paddy Payne, Priska, and Brisbane. They all seem to be going well at the moment, and particularly with their stayers. So good trainers to follow. So made it a tricky race for me, but I just thought Matthew was super impressive. First up, it really put it was well found in the market. Sat in the right spot and then just bang, beat him really easy. It was in weaker class company, but it was impressive. And coming from the Payne stable, again, may have a bit of ability and can step through the grades, but any of the others are a danger. But $5 I thought was just a really nice bet.
Going ridiculous as well, the Payne stable at the moment.
Yeah.
What about the one last week? Looked like I was going to run last, and still won. Anyway, 2,500 metres staying race is up next, a benchmark 78. What have you done here?
Yeah, look, another pretty open race, but some horses here that tend to plod and sort of finish close to the money, but don't get there. I'm sticking with Ridger. Thought it bounced back to form. Finally got the right run at Sandown last start, and slightly back in company. Was very powerful to the line. Won well. Got to the middle of the track and put pay to him with Carr on board. Carr sticks here. Lindsay Smith going well. This sets up nicely. Got the 2,400 metre run under its belt. And I think this can go on with it now.
Yeah, they're just not races you can. I don't think you just win on these sort of races over time. So don't have a great deal of confidence. But I just, if Farrago backs up here, I think we'll run well again for Craig Williams. You mentioned Rudya, and maybe Black Queen down to this level from Sydney. But if I'm having a bet, it'll be Farrago, I think. The quaddie kicks off race 6 with the 1,800 metre benchmark 78. Again, I'm not sure this is a race you can really win on here either. I've ended up with... Who have I ended up with here? Oh, yeah, I've stuck with Thalassophile. If we're swoopers, it's now had a breakthrough. If it's drawn well enough to come on down the middle of the track, should he be racing that way? So it on top. And I thought Cyclone Sally did overperform in Sydney last start, might want a heavy track, so maybe the drier gets maybe less advantageous, but I do think it's going pretty well. But again, low confidence here. Yourself?
Yeah, I was a little bit the same. I kind of went looking for something in this, and I end up pretty much coming back to American Angel on the basis of a few things. It's a fairly consistent horse. But it has some good. It has won at this track. Its best forms over this distance, and it now gets third up after a couple of nice little runs. Its first up run finished off really nicely, carrying some weight behind Bella Rouge, which I thought was impressive, and then probably sat a bit closer to the pace and plugged away nicely last start behind Grand Remore. So I think it gets out now to the 1,600 metres. It's drawn gate 2, so Lane can put it where it wants in the running. And if you go back, it won. It was started favourite at Moonee Valley and beat Classy Miss fairly comfortably when back earlier this year. Won nicely at Caulfield and had some other good form in other decent enough races. So I thought it might just be ready to win now. But yeah, there's plenty of other chances.
Race 7 is the mile for 3-year-olds, where I actually get to be keen on one after a couple of races. But Jimmy the Bear's flying, going really well, as is the stable. Honest last time, 2 nice wins before that. Getting to the Valley is always a question mark, but I think this is a pretty weak affair when you take the rest of... when you take Jimmy out of it. I think the main danger is the fresh blood here, Predator, who went out with a lovely win and did compete in the Australian Guineas. So I'm going to go 3 from 1 and fairly keen that's close to the race here. What have you made of it?
Yeah, good little race here. You're right, Jimmy's going well, but I'm going to back Set to Profit. Two starts back, it won nicely at Donald and was well backed in that race in the market and killed them. And then last start, it was a dual acceptor in Melbourne and Murray Bridge. And I tipped it in Melbourne and I nearly missed it at Murray Bridge. And I was watching the race. I went, oh, set the profit's gone to Murray Bridge. So I jumped on and paid $4.50 there and just beat him easy. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just keeps improving and stepping through. Cars on board. Friedman's good at placing these horses, and I think the 4 gate it's going to sort of sit 1 out, 1 back, 1 out, 2 back, and it will be hitting the line. I think Moonee Valley might suit it.
No, fair call there. Race 8 is the mile benchmark 100. Chief Altony is in the market, leading the market at the moment. Is this its race, Beaver?
Well, it has to be. It came to Sydney last start and just heavy track, and the way that race was run was never really going to win. I think here it gets in with a featherweight on its back, 51.5. Gate 9 suits. I think Moonee Valley is a good enough track for it where it can just sit and sprint. It's ran two places. Goes well this distance. It's now or never for Chief Altony in this preparation.
Yeah, now you're right. Now or never. It should be its race, but it also hasn't been winning some of these races either. Can find issues, but on top for me, if I had to find a danger, probably Tavi Dance, who across the line with his our Bonneville last time. That fits in well here with Jamie Caron if we're running on. And thought of that might roll along on pace and be very hard to get past if you're looking elsewhere. But I think this might be Chiefs' race. And we finish the day with as my book stops working, with a benchmark 70 over the 1,200 metres, which was very tricky. I've finished up with Home Rule on top. Honest little bugger. He'll roll along close to the pace and will give you a sight. Around the each way price there, and I've got Gold Spark next pick, whose whole go in life is racing second up. So if it can peak here again, it might run better than the $13 suggests. But I think this is a tricky race. There's a couple of horses that are coming off nice wins, Beaver.
Yeah, mate, I've got Invisible Jet resuming on top here. Think it presents a really good bet at the double figure odds. Its trial was fantastic at Cranbourne. It'll set up here, it'll jump and run, and it'll take some catching. 1,200 metres here really suits. I think it's ready and raring to go. Has won up the track before, which I think is a bonus. And I think at the double figure odds, you'll get a really good sight.
Lovely. Do you want to get through your Melbourne quaddie?
Yes, my Melbourne quaddie. So in the first leg, I have got number 2, American Angel. Number 3, Zula. Number 11, Thalassophil. Number 15, It's True. And number 13, Rosetsu. So going quite wide in that market. I think it's a pretty open affair. In the next leg, I've gone number 1, Predeturn, number 2, Ungawa, number 3, Jimmy the Bear, and number 10, Set to Profits.
Yep.
In the 8th race, I've gone numbers 12, Tabby Dance, number 13, Lakeen, and number 14, Chief Altony. And to finish the day, which is what looks to be a pretty tricky race, I've got number 1, Gold Spark, number 4, Condos Express, number 6, Invisible Jet, number 11, Home Rule, and number 17 for Real Life.
Beautiful. I'm going to I'll grade myself up a bit now, but I'm going to make my best Dagular race 1, number 1, and my value Matthew in the staying contest for the 3-year-olds. Beaver, what's your best and value?
My best bet comes up in race 5, number 4, Ruja. and my value bet comes up in race 7, number 10, Set to Profit.
Lovely. Of course, punters, don't be afraid to leave your best in the comments below. But Beaver, you got your best for Queensland.
Yeah, I found a few up in Queensland for us, Daggy. Pretty keen on a few up there. Race 3, number 2, Recommendation. I think it'll be hard to beat, around the 6 to 4. Then moving into race 5, number 10, Hassan First. It's been kept for this, ran the 2 to 1. I think it can be hard to beat. Then moving to race 7, number 4, Asamu. Again, probably around the 2 to 1, maybe a little bit better than that.
No love for Go Wanji?
9 to 4. I think Go Wanji is hard to beat. I think that's a 2-horse race. My concern is that Go Wanji might be giving the other horse 7 kilos and giving it a decent start.
Yep. Fair
and
enough.
Gate 10's going to have to weave through the traffic, where the other one might just be able to pinch it on that. So I kind of just thought that was a little bit tricky. And at the prices, I was happy to let it go.
No, fair enough.
And then to finish the day, I think you can get the win here in the last race 9, number 3, Manhood, about even money. Drawn wide, but I think it'll probably start a little bit shorter than that.
Yeah, it has been very impressive. Both starts would have given it a chance in Sydney. Good stuff, Beaver. My best to you and the family this afternoon. Take care. Good punting on the weekend, punters, and we will talk next Tuesday night when we look towards midweek racing. And take care and chat soon.